So we were having a conversation just now about coaching, which is pretty critical. There's like a lot of different kinds of leaders. I've worked for a lot of different types of bosses. Some are better than others, and I think they say something about how people don't leave companies; they leave managers, and so it's really important to be a good leader and a good coach. So you've been coaching reps for a while now. What are some of the things that you've learned through trial and error about what works and what doesn't work? What makes for a good coach?
Yeah, I love the question, Jeff. Always good to spend some time chatting with you. Coaching is a great responsibility, and at the end of the day, you are an advocate and an evangelist for your team. You've got to plug in. You've got to, we've talked about this numerous times, and I know you're very passionate about it. Uncovering their why, right? So getting a feel for what motivates them. What are the types of things that they're going to care about? Some of them care about getting paid. Some of them care about, keeping this job where they have their benefits and they're able to take care of their family. Others want, to win. They want success. They want, the accolades or promotions or whatever that is. Some of them just want core competence in their role. And it's timely that you asked that question because I recently went through some coaching and training around that very topic. So I've been a manager and a leader in the business for a lot of my career across multiple companies. But what I love about my current company is the investment that they make in us from a training perspective. And I went through a training around the SL2 leadership model. And if you're not familiar with it, I'd certainly encourage that you look it up. But what it does is it really helps you diagnose where people are in their journey, in their learning journey, in their career journey. And frankly, for each role, as people start out, a lot of times they'll fit into one of these quadrants, where they're very eager to learn, high octane energy, but don't have the competence yet in role. And then as they go through the journey, obviously they gain some competence. However, they will continue to experience, some blockers because they don't know it all. And how do they react and respond to that? Then they'll gain some additional competence and confidence. And then finally, you've got some of these seasoned professionals. So how do you diagnose and effectively lead and coach at each step? Now, I think it all starts with the foundation. It's that foundation of trust and transparency. Making sure that you're coming in, understanding where they are in their journey. What do they feel like they need or want from you? I establish a cadence with my team as far as, how often do you want to meet? What do you want that to look like? What topics are going to be top of mind? And then as we work toward a plan together, do they want to take on another role in the organization? Do they want to be promoted? Do they want to work on their brand? One of the things that I've seen as a commonality across people that I've coached, everybody brings their unique superpowers to the table, right? But my challenge to them is, okay, this is great, phenomenal work. How do we replicate what you're doing? How do we take these wins that you're having? Because it doesn't take food off the table to share these wins with others, share your process with others. So a lot of my coaching is, hey, this is fantastic work. How do we replicate this and put you on this well-deserved pedestal to share this out with the team, with our business, with our organization? And so I'm always looking for ways to promote folks. Another big element is communication. Now, I don't profess to be the end all be all when it comes to this, because I admit I over communicate. I send a lot of information, because I want my team to know as much as humanly possible. I want them to understand the processes. I want them to see behind the curtain, because I feel like when there's trust and transparency, people do their best work, leaders and teams included. So that's another element. And then lastly, it all comes down to going back to that why. I keep a file open when I'm having my one-on-ones with all of my team, and I'll hark back to prior notes. I keep some things at the banner head where I can talk about, these are the high-level things that I want to make sure I'm visiting each time. And then I'll usually revisit the notes from the last time. You've got to have a sequence. You've got to have milestones that you're working toward. I have goals that I've told my team that I'm working on with them. Like my goal is to get you this year. My goal is to get you this award or this promotion or whatever that is, and to be proactively working toward that. Being communicative, being very clear about your expectations, and being a human, being a person. at the end of this, people work for people. You highlighted that when you started this off. People work for people, and I've been very fortunate. I've gravitated towards some great leaders in my time as well. And so I think it's all the more important to be a great coach. I recently read a book that was written by John Wooden, probably one of the greatest coaches. And at the heart of all of it was just being a good person, treating people with respect, being very clear and transparent, but gaining and earning that trust. So those are my thoughts on coaching. Would love to get yours, Jeff.
Well, you kind of stole my thunder because I'm a big fan of finding the why. So I think that's I really appreciate that. I resonate with that. If I were to add a couple other smaller things, I'd say there's this idea of inception. So we've all seen the movie Inception. Well, I hope people have seen it. This idea, but you plant an idea in someone's mind. It's a far more effective way of selling an idea than telling someone what to do. So a good coach will oftentimes ask good questions to their subordinate the same way that they would ask good discovery questions to a customer, and kind of allow them to talk themselves into a good answer, right? I mean, that's what you do in sales. So if you're trying to articulate a concept to someone on your team, if you know that when you're selling to a customer, it's more powerful for them to realize it on their own, well, how is it any different when you're coaching someone? You're trying to sell them an idea on how to behave or work differently. So I think if you ask good questions, rather than kind of telling people what to do, it helps them to adopt the ideas in a way where they feel like it's their idea and not something that they're being told to do. The other thing too is there's this age-old expression, lead by example. There's I think it's like a meme that I really like, where there's like a leader, there's a rock that's standing in the way, and there's a leader who's sitting on a throne telling people to move the rock, and then there's a leader who's just moving the rock for everybody on the team. And I've worked for people in the past who would tell me to move the rock, and I've worked for people who have just moved the rock. And I think it's no surprise which one was more enjoyable. And so if you have leaders that are willing to do the things that they're telling you to do or that they're asking you to do, whether even if that's prospecting and they're doing all the cold calling with you and they're showing you how it's done, it makes them more credible, right? Because if someone's telling you to do a thing that you don't want to do, the first thing you think is like, well, I doubt you would want to do this too, right? So when you see somebody doing the thing, it makes it harder to say that you can't get it done because you're watching somebody else do it and you're learning about how to do it. So I think those are a couple other important things that I would add to the mix. But I would say that what you said, Carson, about aligning around the why and understanding what motivates people, that's always going to be number one. And that's always going to be the most important thing as a leader and as a coach.
You hit on something so important there. It's getting in the boat with them and showing that you're willing to get dirty or do the work, prospect with them, strategize with them. And frankly, that's the most fun of the job itself. And The other thing that you highlighted, be an influencer. At the end of it, you want them to see that there's gaps in their process, right? But everybody's going to have their own way of doing it. So it's not my job to force people to do it my way. It's my job to understand their way and help them see collectively the gaps that they might have in the process and then influence them to change based on, I see the trajectory that I'm on and I'm willing to gamble or risk the results that I have right now that I'm not happy with to go with this new process or take on something into my process because I know it will make me better. And you see that and they fear the risk of missing out. They fear missing out, and then they make the change as a result. And that's how you can helpfully influence. But you're right. You can't force them to do it a certain way. You coach, you hope for the best in a lot of these situations with your influence and enjoy the ride.
Yep. Love it.
Outstanding. Well, hey, Jeff, always a pleasure. Hope you have a good rest of your week, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Carson.
Thanks, Jeff.